And the first thing I want to get clear to everybody is that this is not a crypto problem. This problem that we're seeing happens in the stock market every 8 to 12 years. It happens in the real estate market every 15 to 20 years.
This is the Demystifying Crypto and Building Wealth podcast.
I knew that would be worth trillions.
That had never existed in human history.
There's been massive opportunities.
The #1 podcast to help you understand and get insights into the crypto world, blockchain technology, wealth building, and financial investing. Now, here's your host, Tico Tawari, the world's #1 most trusted cryptocurrency analyst and Wall Street veteran with decades of experience in the financial space.
And what am I talking about? I'm talking about trusted entities lying about what they own and lying about the amount of leverage that they're taking. When we went through the financial crisis, you saw massive, well-regulated banks and companies lie about what they had on their balance sheet, lie about the amount of risk that they were taking, and lie about the amount of leverage that they were taking. As we went through that process where all those bad loans unwound and all those companies went out of business, nobody ever said, oh, well, this is the warning. You got to stay out of stocks. They're just absolutely terrible as an asset class. They're absolutely awful. When bonds went to zero because these companies were completely bankrupt with no assets, nobody said, oh, this investment vehicle of bonds is terrible. You've got to stay away from it. And yet that's the narrative that is starting to take place now with crypto. Oh, you've got to stay away from crypto. Crypto's no good. This is not a crypto problem. Bitcoin wasn't hacked. Ethereum wasn't hacked. Bitcoin is still producing block after block after block, as is Ethereum. All the decentralized finance protocols are working just fine. So what this is, and what I want to make very clear to everybody, is this is exactly what crypto was designed to avoid. If you are keeping your coins on a centralized exchange, you are taking an enormous amount of risk, even more risk than you take just, with the traditional banking system. With the traditional banking system, you have a lender of last resort in the form of both the federal government and the Federal Reserve. And what they realized 100 years ago when they started the Federal Reserve, which was started in 1913, is that you needed a lender of last resort, because what they realized was in the banking space and in the finance space, people get greedy and then people get dishonest, and people will do things that can absolutely destroy people. Everybody here should do a quick search about the banking panic of 1907. You saw some of the biggest banks in America have bank runs where you had thousands of people standing outside trying to get their money. And just like now, they said, sorry, close for withdrawals, close for withdrawals, close for withdrawals. And that's what we're seeing here. Is this bank run. What makes it worse is something like FTX explicitly stated that that your funds would be kept separate, that they would not borrow against them, they would not lend them, they would not rehypothecate them, which is essentially taking your customer's asset and then just borrowing against it, multiple times. And they did the opposite. So, when somebody is just lies, there's no amount of regulation that can save you from that. Bernie Madoff, and this is something that Pomp talked about when he was on CNBC, Bernie Madoff was in the most regulated industry you could have. He had a brokerage firm, and he had a regulated fund, right? Completely regulated, onshore in the United States, and yet he kept that Ponzi scheme going for almost 40 years, robbed people of $50 billion. So my point is that regulations only take us so far. Anytime you're relying on a centralized third party, there's an element of trust that you have to rely on. And again, this is the reason why Bitcoin was created. It was created so we didn't have to rely on trust, which is why I've been such a proponent of holding your own coins, of taking possession of your own coins, not relying on a third party. One of the greatest gifts that Satoshi gave us was the ability to self-custody our assets. Now, is it easy to self-custody? No. if you lose your key, you lose your money. It's the same way as if you have a pile of gold in your house and somebody comes in and takes it, it's done. Or you have a lockbox somewhere and you lose your key and you can't get into it. So there's an element of responsibility with self-custody that a lot of people, just don't want to take that on. And if you don't want to take that on, then you have to understand that because this space is just developing, you have the risk that whoever you're relying on to hold your coins can go out of business or is doing something unethical or even illegal with your money.
So that concludes today's episode. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. You can find the show notes on www.tikatiwari.com. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with others, talk about it on social media, and leave a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss another episode. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.